As I walked up to the summit of Mount Kenashi, I squinted against the harsh sunlight, my legs burning, the high altitude making my head spin, the wind roaring in my ears, barely able to hear myself think, let alone those near me. The trees around me threatened to fall, their branches waving in the air. It was not snowing like it had the night before. The particles of ice still bit into my cheekbones, making me cry. It was the annual trip I make with my family every year, usually to Japan, though we have occasionally gone somewhere different. It took us an 8-hour flight, a 3-day layover in Hong Kong, and another 6-hour plane ride to get there. But we finally landed in the airport in Tokyo. Of course, our journey wasn't over. We had to spend 5 hours on a bullet train and a 20-minute bus ride to get to where we would spend the next week and a half in a small farming village at the bottom of a snow-covered mountain called Nozawa Onsen. Every day while we were there, we would walk up the steep hill to the gondola that would take us up to the ski slopes, our arms throbbing from the heavy skis and stumbling on the way because of the hard, unyielding boots we would wear. It wasn't that long of a walk, about 200 meters at most, but every day, without fail, I would end the walk panting while taking off my jacket because I was overheating. In -5-degree weather. I was always thankful that the walk was over once we got to the gondola station. The ski resort was split into 3 sections. The bottom, where the village and a few ski runs were. The middle, you had to take a gondola to get there, and there were a few more ski runs and a few restaurants. And then there was the top. The only way to get there was by chairlift, and those were closed most days anyway. The day I stood on the peak of the snowy mountain, the sky was a cool, cloudy blue. It was so close, it felt as though I could touch it if I reached far enough. Looking down at the steep slopes that ran into the valley, towering over the places I had just walked through only hours before, like watching a colony of ants in an ant farm. It was oddly separate from the rest of the world, being up that high. The wind screamed with a voice of its own, yet there was an undisturbed tranquility. Fire burned through my body, and ice clung to my clothes. The snowy peaks of the mountains around us stretched on into the distance forever, the frozen rivers carved into the land. I could now understand what Percy B. Shelley meant in Mont Blanc. Dizzy ravine, and when I gaze on thee, I seem as in a trance sublime and strange, to muse my own separate fantasy, my human mind, which passively now renders and receives vast influencings, holding an unremitting interchange with the clear universe of things around. I remember barely daring to breathe, unwilling to disturb the perfect picture in front of me. Then, the moment was over. I snapped out of my trance and turned to walk through the crowd of tourists to get to the slopes. That was it. That was my mountaintop moment. It was no longer a serene, lonely place, only to be seen by a select few. It was a crowded place, a tourist spot for others who wanted their mountaintop moment. It was kind of ironic, the massive physical exertion that it took to experience that easy sublime in Japan. It was a cliche. It was the great wave of Kanagawa. It was how Longinus defines the sublime, as man's ability through feeling and words to reach beyond the realm of the human condition into greater mystery. It is what the Romantics experienced, but that's not always what the sublime is. In Sydney, it was different. In Sydney, the sublime was hard to find and easy to miss. It was not an obvious greatness, not something that towered over the city or posed a threat to its inhabitants. It was the sun shining over the water or the sunset from a balcony. It was small moments during busy days.